It is official. We have made it to the final preview episode of Pigskin Perspectives for this football season. Welcome in. I'm your host, as always, Nick Burt. It is 2 days out from the Super Bowl, depending on when you're watching this. It may even be a day out when you're watching this. It may be the day of when you're watching this, but the Super Bowl is this weekend. What a matchup we have. It is the San Francisco 49ers, is the Kansas City Chiefs. A rematch of a Super Bowl just from 4 years ago. It was down in Miami. The Kansas City Chiefs walked away with victorious in that one. And here we are 4 years later in the bright lights, the big city of Las Vegas. Bright lights, big city, that's technically LA, but hey, we are in Las Vegas. The first Super Bowl ever in Las Vegas, the first Super Bowl ever in the state of Nevada. This is a big moment for both the NFL and Vegas, obviously. We've come a long way in a short amount of time. It was, 2018? It was the ban on gambling kind of was pushed off and more states adopted it. Vegas was very taboo for a long time. Then the Golden Knights came in the NHL in 2017. They were immediately successful, which kind of started moving the wheels for the Raiders to move to Vegas. If the Raiders moved to Vegas in a billion-dollar stadium, there's no doubt that the NFL was going to eventually come for the Super Bowl, and here we are. It is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs playing in a stadium that they know very well. They play in there once a year because the Raiders are a divisional opponent, going up against San Francisco 49ers, a team that is obviously much closer to Las Vegas than Kansas City. It is going to be quite an interesting matchup. Obviously, it's the biggest game of the year. They're expecting a huge turnout TV-wise, whether you be watching for the football, for the commercials, or for the Usher halftime show. There's going to be a little bit for everybody, I think, in what should hopefully be a great game. But before, sometimes you got to go back to actually move forward. These two teams have storied histories in the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs will be appearing in their 6th Super Bowl. They appeared in the very first one against Green Bay, January 15th, 1967, at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It was the Green Bay Packers walking away with victorious that day. But it would only be 4 years later when the Kansas City Chiefs would get their first Super Bowl win. In Super Bowl IV, that game was at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, Louisiana, as they beat the Minnesota Vikings in the final Super Bowl of the AFL-NFL era. Felt a fitting way to end the AFL, given the Chiefs were one of the founders, and Lamar Hunt was a big factor in the AFL and the subsequent merger. Obviously, the Hunt family still owns the team. And it felt fitting that in the 100th season of the NFL, the Chiefs would go to their first Super Bowl in 50 years, as they would be in Super Bowl 54 against the San Francisco 49ers in Miami, walk away victorious. It was only a year later they returned to the Super Bowl to face off against Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home in Tampa, where the Chiefs fell in that game. I believe the final score was 30-9. It was quite a blowout-ish for Super Bowl standards. And of course, they were there last year. They got the victory then over the Philadelphia Eagles in one of the highest scoring Super Bowls in history. They get the victory in that one, and here they are with their 6th. The San Francisco 49ers, however, they have a much larger history. This will be their 8th Super Bowl. They are looking once again to claim Vince Lombardi's trophy. Their first one was claimed back in Super Bowl 16, back at the Pontiac Silverdome. The first cold weather indoor Super Bowl. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals in that one. Their second one was Super Bowl 19, which technically wasn't played at home, but was close to home turf as they faced off against the Miami Dolphins at Stanford Stadium in Stanford, California, which is next to San Francisco, basically. They then went on to win Super Bowl 23. Believe that one was in Miami. They played the Bengals, won that one. Super Bowl 24, they won that one also. Super Bowl 29, they won that one. I believe that one was against San Francisco 49, or against the San Diego Chargers, I should say. That one was in Miami. And then they had a long absence, and then they returned for Super Bowl 47. That one was in New Orleans, going up against the Baltimore Ravens. John Harbaugh versus Jim Harbaugh, of course. Power outage middle of the game. The San Francisco 49ers fell in that one to the Ravens. And then, of course, the last time they were in the Super Bowl was against the Kansas City Chiefs 4 years ago, where they lost in that one also. So after starting off 6-0 in Super Bowls, the 49ers are now 0-2 in their last two Super Bowls. Obviously going to be something to monitor in this one. Looking back at how we got to Vegas, Kansas City Chiefs, it has not been one of those, outstanding years that they've had in these past few years. They'd started off with the banner-raising night, Thursday night, opened the season. They lose to the Detroit Lions. A lot of questions going around. Of course, they were missing two key pieces of their team, one of them being Travis Kelce, who was out with injury. That played a big factor in why they lost that game. But right after that loss, everybody's back. They go on a run of 6 straight victories, including wins against the Broncos and Chargers, which of course are divisional opponents. Those games always seem to be closer than people expect. They then fell to the Broncos just a few weeks after they beat them. That would have been their second loss on the year. Before they traveled over to Frankfurt, Germany, defeated the Miami Dolphins. Kind of a little foreshadow there. Then they just went on a 2-3 run over past their bye week, including losses to the Eagles, the Packers, the Bills, and then eventually the Raiders also. So that they would have been 2-4 actually in that run. But then from there on out, they won out, ending the season with wins against the Bengals and the Chargers. Then going into the playoffs, defeating Miami, the Dolphins at home in what would be their only home playoff game. They defeated the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo for Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff victory and first road playoff game in general. And then they went to Baltimore, defeated the Ravens to make it here to the Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers, a somewhat similar season, I would say. They started the season off 5-0. It was the train was rolling, and it was rolling fast, and it looked like this team was going to be unbeatable until they went into Cleveland and lost to the Browns. And then their season kind of derailed from there. They lost 3 straight. They lost at Cleveland, at Minnesota, and then they lost to Cincinnati at home before they hit the bye week. During that 3-game stretch, there were a few injuries in there, which, of course, are going to affect the team. But then they went on they were back to being the Chiefs from week 1 to 5 as they rattle off wins against the Jaguars, against the Buccaneers, against the Seahawks, against the Eagles, against the Seahawks again, against the Cardinals, before they ended up losing to Baltimore on Christmas Day. That was a big game. It felt like that was possibly going to be a Super Bowl preview, which, I mean, we were close to it. But they lose to Baltimore. They win against the Commanders and then lose to the Rams in the final game of the season. But they were resting players, so it kind of makes sense there. They had the first round bye, so they didn't have to play in the wild card round, but their 2 playoff games have been much closer than they would have wanted. Barely defeating the 7 seed and just sneaking in. Packers, they beat them 24-21. And then coming back from a 24-7 deficit at halftime to beat the Detroit Lions 34-31 in the NFC Championship game to get to this point. So here we are. We are at the Super Bowl. We've looked back. Now it's time to look at the future and what we're looking for in this Super Bowl. But there's a lot of things that could possibly happen here. Both teams very good. Both teams had runs during the season where it looked like they were just going to be unbeatable this year. Both teams had runs where you're like, how is this team a Super Bowl contender? But we have reached this point. So if we take a look at the stats, scoring offense this year for the Chiefs, this has not been the Chiefs team of the past few years. Like I said, they only averaged 21.8 points per game, which sits 15th in the league. So you're right about halfway in the league, 32-team league. So you're right about in the middle. Not great. Compare that to the San Francisco 49ers averaging a touchdown more, as they averaged 28.9 points per game, which sat 3rd in the league. Total yards offensively, Chiefs, again, kind of a down year as they sit 9th in the league with 5,972 yards total throughout this season, compared to the 49ers, who sit at 6,773, which was 2nd in the NFL this year. All these stats are regular season stats, because throwing in postseason stats kind of convolutes things, but still. Yards per game, again, Chiefs, it hasn't been the season that we've seen from them, as they average 351.3 yards per game, once again sitting them 9th in the league. Compared to the 49ers, who are almost averaging 400 yards a game, right at 398.4, which is also 2nd in the league. So you can look at this offensively. Of course, the Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, he's proven that he is going to be the next great quarterback in the NFL, if he isn't already. He is at that point. He can carry this offense. Obviously, this offense hasn't been as good as people expected them to be this year, but I think a lot of that has to do with injuries. I don't think the whole team's been playing healthy the whole year. To an effect, the lack of targets, I guess I would say. You could say with injuries, he hasn't had his full range of targets, even though most of them have been there. But it's hard to bet against a Patrick Mahomes-led offense because Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they just go together. They're a great team together. If Patrick Mahomes is on a different team, I don't know if he is what he is right now. If Andy Reid is coaching a different quarterback, I don't know if we are where we are right now, where the Chiefs are in their 4th Super Bowl in the past 5 years. Both needed each other, kind of like Brady and Belichick. Both needed each other. If Brady was on a different team, Brady would not have been Brady. If Belichick had Drew Bledsoe or a different quarterback, the Belichick would not have been Belichick, nor would the Patriots be the Patriots. Every so often in life, you do get a coaching star player connection like that. And when you get that, you're going to have special things happen. Now, if you look at the other side of the ball, you got Kyle Shanahan as head coach. A lot of the questions, basically his whole tenure as head coach, is who is the future quarterback of the 49ers? Because we truly did not know. They drafted Trey Lance thinking he is the quarterback of the future. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo was still there at the time. They wanted him to sit behind Garoppolo for a few years, learn from him. Trey Lance just never was good. So he ends up falling down the list. Garoppolo leaves because, injuries and the 49ers didn't want him. And stepping up through all these injuries last year was Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy, who has put himself now in a situation where he is somehow the quarterback of the future of the San Francisco 49ers. The last pick in the draft has somehow become the best pick the 49ers have made in the past few years quarterback-wise. Now, Brock Purdy, is he a great NFL quarterback? I don't know. I know he's gotten to this point, but he has a lot of very, very great targets around him. Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffery, George Kittle. I mean, the list goes on and on. He's got just great amounts of talent around him. So it's kind of like the talent lifting everybody up. On offense, I do give the Chiefs the advantage here. I think they are the better offensive team, which I think is going to be big in this game. We now take a look at the other side of the ball on the defense. Scoring defense, the Chiefs have been letting up 17.3 points per game, which is second in the NFL. First was the Baltimore Ravens, who they beat last week. Scoring defense for the San Francisco 49ers, 17.5 points per game they are averaging giving up. That is third in the NFL. So you have the first in the NFL was the Ravens, who lost to the Chiefs, who are number 2, who are going up against number 3, who are the San Francisco 49ers. These 3 teams have been the runaway teams this year. Kansas City less so than Baltimore and San Francisco, but all 3 of these teams kind of ran away and thinking that they were the far out Super Bowl favorites. The team that can get the stops on defense have the offense to go down the field and win this game. If the 49ers defense can force Mahomes into bad throws or turnovers, the 49ers have the offense to get down the field and get past this second-ranked Chargers defense. Now, if Brock Purdy, the lights are too bright and he just falls under pressure and the Chiefs keep forcing him to do bad things, the Chiefs have the offense to get past the number 3 defense in the NFL. That's just how this game is going to go. If we look at total yards, the Chiefs' total given up yards for the season is 4,926, which sits second in the NFL. The 49ers were at 5,167, which is 8th in the NFL. Yards per game average, the Chiefs are averaging right around 289.8 yards per game given up. That is second in the NFL once again. So they are by far the second best defense. They are the best defense left, I would say, because the 49ers giving up 303.9 yards per game on average, which is 8th in the NFL. Now, here's the thing with both of these. Like I said, I think both offenses can take the step up and get past the defenses because both defenses are really good. But I still would not rule out the defense having a huge factor in this game. If a team forces a pick six or a fumble in the red zone or an interception in the end zone, either team, because both teams have the capability of doing it, that is going to be a momentum changer and a game changer. The defense that can force the most mistakes is the team that's most likely going to win this game. The way it breaks down, it has been a little while in the NFL since we have seen a defense win a championship because the age-old term, defense wins championships. The past few years, it's been offense wins championships. This feels like a year where it's finally going to be whichever defense can get that stop, whichever defense can force that mistake, whichever defense can force that turnover is going to, they're going to figure it out and win this game. Given that, both teams very, very good, like I said. It's so hard to distinct them because I think both teams have a realistic shot of winning this game. Now, of course, if you look at common opponents that these teams have faced, the Baltimore Ravens one sticks out very much. Both games up against the Ravens were late season, I would say, because the 49ers were at Christmas. The Chiefs were in the AFC title. Both teams were around the same health, I would say, mostly healthy. It's not like there were any stars missing. The Chiefs won that game. The 49ers lost. That's a big common opponent type thing you look at there and say, both teams went up against the exact same team. One team looked a lot better than the other team did. Now, you could say on the Ravens, that's overcoaching, all that, and that's why they lost to the Chiefs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, maybe they overcoached, but still. You're facing the exact same players, the exact same team, barring an injury or two. But you take a look at that and you're like, that's an interesting combination there. It's so hard to pick between these two teams because I think a lot of America truly does not care who wins this because a lot of America doesn't want either team to win. I think everybody, especially last or 2 weeks ago, I should say, in the conference title games, everybody was on that Lions bandwagon. When you got a team that close that's never been to a Super Bowl, everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon and hopefully ride it to a national title in the Super Bowl. Or national title, world title, same thing. You get what I mean. A lot of that momentum was lost because the 49ers won that game. The Chiefs are they've turned into the Patriots. Obviously I'm wearing a Patriots Super Bowl. That is 53 jersey. That is when they beat the Los Angeles Rams. The last, I would say, true defensive Super Bowl victory. Because the Patriots held the Rams to 9 points in that game, I think. Both teams, back to the Chiefs and 49ers, both teams are very good. If we look back at that Super Bowl 4 years ago, I know a lot of things have changed since then, but the 49ers were up in that game, and they blew it at the end. How much is that running in Kyle Shanahan's mind these past few weeks, where it's either A, I can get revenge from the Super Bowl that I lost 4 years ago, or is it, how do I not make the mistakes I made 4 years ago and then overthink it and make the same exact mistakes as you did 4 years ago? Like I said, it's hard to predict between these teams. But, America, I don't think truly cares who wins this. The 49ers, I believe, are still a 2-point favorite in Vegas. Which, obviously we're in Vegas for this one. My official prediction, I think the Chiefs are going to win this Super Bowl. I think a big defensive play by the Chiefs get them a victory in this one. I think the lights get a little bit too bright for Brock Purdy. Makes a mistake that he wouldn't have made in different games. The Chiefs win this one, establishing themselves as the next dynasty in the NFL. As that would be their third Super Bowl in the past 5 years, something like that. I think they get the victory in this one. Obviously, if you look back, they won and then they went back the next year and lost. Now they won last year. Are they going to lose this one? You can look at that. But I think the Chiefs get the victory in this one. The defense, I just think, is going to make a play here. Patrick Mahomes has been in this situation going to be 4 times now. He knows what to do. I don't think Brock Purdy as much. The height of Brock Purdy's career is a Fiesta Bowl against Oregon in a 4th full State Farm Stadium in 2021 because of COVID. I think the Chiefs end up winning this one. I'll go 31-27. I think they win this, crowning themselves champions of the NFL for back-to-back years, something we haven't seen since the Patriots did it, and establishing themselves as the next Patriots. I mean, we are here living in the next dynasty of the AFC, and it's going to be hard to take them down. Something is going to have to change within the AFC. Somebody's going to have to step up and compete with the Chiefs, because until somebody beats them, they're the team to beat. Obviously, again, prop bets, all that stuff, that was on Tuesday's video. So if you want all that, go check out Tuesday's video, Super Bowl prop bet preview. Commercials, I'm not expecting a ton this year. They kind of sucked the past few years, if we're honest. There's been 1 or 2 good ones. Then the rest are just overpaid $7 million commercials that people overthink. The halftime show, I'm truly not expecting much from there either, even though I'm not a huge Usher person myself. Not expecting a ton there. I think the broadcast has an opportunity to kind of be a breaking point for America. I say that because CBS has this broadcast, which means Tony Romo's in the booth. I feel like a lot of people are starting to turn on Tony Romo. People are really getting annoyed by everything that he does in the booth, which, love it or hate it, that's Tony Romo. Just wait until you have Tom Brady in that booth next year. It's not going to be great, I can tell you that. Of course, if you want different viewing options, I believe it's on Telemundo. If you want to watch it in Spanish, obviously. This game's also going to be on Nickelodeon. They're doing the Nickelodeon exclusive game where they add in Nickelodeon characters. I believe the setting for this is technically Bikini Bottom in the Nickelodeon universe. So you have SpongeBob and Patrick Star on the broadcast, which should be something. Can't wait to see what the halftime show is. If it isn't, Squidward and SpongeBob leading the orchestra in the Bubble Bowl to sweet victory, it's going to be quite a disappointment. But here we go. Of course, before all the games start, you got the Puppy Bowl on Animal Planet, Team Rough versus Team Fluff. Hearing that Team Rough is a 10-point favorite in that game. That's not a real line. Don't go looking for that to bet. But we have reached Super Bowl weekend. Of course, all about the food also. All the types of party food. But given that's going to wrap up this episode of Pigskin Perspectives, the last preview of the year. It has been a great run of preview videos. We started week 0 of college football. We've reached whatever week this is in the NFL. I believe this is episode 50 for Pigskin Perspectives, so it's a good season ending point, technically, even though Pigskin Perspectives does continue on Monday or Tuesday, one of the two. So thank you so much for tuning in to this Super Bowl preview. If you just stumbled across this video, you enjoyed it, click like, click subscribe. Tell anybody you know about it. We got a lot of content like this here. Go check out the old videos. I know the stuff's outdated, but just see what we got. Again, we'll be back Monday or Tuesday recapping the Super Bowl. Probably throw in reviews of the halftime show, commercials, the Bikini Bottom Bubble Bowl, whatever they're calling it on Nickelodeon. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy Super Bowl weekend, and we will see you again soon for another episode of Pigskin Perspectives.